The Yemeni armed forces, with the help and the grace of God Almighty,
The Houthis are joining the war.
has done its first military attacks with a barrage of ballistic missiles against sensitive military targets in the south of occupied Palestine.
And with that,
I have to say, that spokesman for the Houthis, the way he speaks, is really robotic.
attack, Yemen's Houthis entered the war, making this Israel's
Whoa. Look at how many microphones. I've never seen that many microphones in one place. That's amazing.
third active front. The Israeli army says air defenses intercepted one missile before it reached Israeli territory. It comes as domestic tensions are emerging. Israeli military officials are pushing back against the government's strategy in southern Lebanon. More troops have been deployed to expand what it calls a buffer zone, pushing deeper into Lebanon. Media reports suggest
They're trying to seize all the land on one side of the river that flows through there.
the army's chief of staff is concerned by the continued exemption of ultra-Orthodox Israelis from conscription. In Israel, the Houthis' decision to join the battle is seen as a retaliation to strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities and an attempt to strengthen Iran's position in indirect talks with the US to end the war. It's also a message from the Yemeni group, an Iranian ally, to Washington. With exports through the Strait of Hormuz largely
Yeah, now there's the risk of the ships going through here being blocked too, which is further compound all the problems in the world economy.
blocked, maritime traffic in the Red Sea could be next. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait, an important commercial shipping route, is also used by US carriers to reinforce its military presence in the region. The Houthis have disrupted shipping before, attacking vessels in the Red Sea during Israel's war on Gaza.
They did.
It's no secret that any escalation to prolong the war serves Israel's political and military goals.
But it's not what Trump wants. Trump wants out. He wants to tackle as hard as he can, but he can't. Because I don't know if most people even know where Lebanon is. Here is Lebanon. And what Israel's trying to do, this doesn't show the river, but there's a river that goes like here. They're trying to take all the territory south of the river and expand Israel again. This video really lays out the problem Trump has right now in the Middle East.
Again, if Trump calls you, how do we, avoid the iceberg? How do we get out of here? What can he do at this point in time?
There's no off-ramp.
The truth is, he is going to have to make major concessions to the Iranians. And it will be clear when he makes those major concessions that the Iranians won a clear victory. It will be
Exactly. And we're going to, later in the stream, we're going to go over an Asmongold video, and he doesn't, yeah, that'll be fun.
humiliating defeat for the United States. If he wants to end this, given what you and I have been saying about what happens is you go up the escalation ladder and the fact that there is no easy.
Iran has escalation dominance. So anything we try to do to them, they can turn around and hurt us a lot worse in terms of, they can destroy like all the Gulf states, like put them permanently out of business, destroy the desalination plants, all the oil infrastructure, and basically send all the Gulf states back to Stone Age. They have enough missile power to do that. So if we escalate, I have a video just about that. That's why Trump backed down earlier this week, is because Trump states called and begged him not to do it.
Exit strategy here. He really has no choice in the final analysis but to cave in to most of Iran's demands and accept a humiliating defeat. And that will be extremely hard to do. And it'll be extremely hard to do in part because of Israel.
Agreed. Israel is already doing all it can to make sure Trump can't tackle out. His campaign of just killing leaders is part of that. Any leader gets replaced is likely to be replaced by even more hardline individual. And that'll be even tougher to negotiate with. It's Plus, it hardens and radicalizes Iran, and Israel is not going to be cooperative with any attempts to get an off-ramp to this.
The Israelis will not want us to make any concessions. The Israelis will want us to continue the war. But I think this will be a case where we will be so desperate to avoid a global catastrophe that Trump will ignore the Israelis and do what he has to do. Now, he may not do that.
He won't. I don't think he can. It'd be political suicide.
Right? He may feel that he just can't make the necessary concessions, that the Iranian demands are just too outrageous. And those Iranian demands would be hard for anyone to swallow, anybody in the White House, whether it's President Trump, President George H.W. Bush.
Probably impossible.
Ronald Reagan, Franklin D. Roosevelt. The demands that the Iranians are making are really quite amazing. So even if you accept
a withdrawal of all U.S. troops from the Middle East, paying reparations, recognition of Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz, those types of demands is what is coming from the other side. And no way can Trump can accept that.
Only 75% of them, or even 50% of them, that would be very difficult to do. And this is the enormous problem that he faces. And one can easily imagine, let me take away the word easily, one can imagine him not accepting
He won't.
deal and just thinking that he can stick it out.
Iran keeps the Strait of Hormuz closed six months. Trump loses. It crashes the global economy. Democrats win the Congress, and they impeach Trump. Regime change in America caused by Iran. That is the reality. And there's nothing we can do to open the Strait of Hormuz militarily because we weren't preparing for that beforehand, so we have no troops ready.
And the end result is we'll basically go off a cliff economically. I think a lot of people don't see that as a serious possibility at this point in time.
Yeah, like Asmongold, as we'll see later. Yes, everyone still thinks that, this will be over in a couple of weeks. It's not going to drag on for months. There's so many people that are still in for a rude awakening.
But I think if you look at newspapers like the Financial Times and the Wall Street Journal carefully, you look at the business section, the articles that are written about the economy and about fertilizers and food and so forth and so on, you see that we could very easily go off a cliff here. We're talking about a serious
Yes, that's what's going to. That is Iran's leverage
situation, and it's not clear what President Trump will do.
It's not clear that there's anything he can do. That's why the only right move was not bombing Iran's supreme leader. Once that happened, I said from like day one, Trump is fucked. There's no other way to say it. Anything he does, whether it's agreeing to the Iranian demands, political suicide, he does nothing, the global economy crashes, Democrats win, he gets impeached, he loses, he escalates, sends in troops in some ill-advised operation. This is not some month-long, well-planned operation. This is some mad dash scramble, Hail Mary pass, trying to get him out of it, which he's going to get desperate enough to do, it's certain. Every time he's moved military assets to the Middle East, he's used them. And that'll just make the whole situation worse for him. But he has no... Yeah, anything he does, he's trapped.
As I like to say, Glenn, I think that when you study international history, there are these handful of cases that stand out where policymakers get into desperate situations. And when policymakers get into desperate situations, they sometimes roll the dice. They do things that lead to catastrophe.
Yeah, because right now, Trump has had 4 weeks to realize just how fucked he is if the Strait of Hormuz remained closed. And so his options are political suicide by agreeing to Iranians' demands, do nothing, and the global economy crashes because of his actions, or 3, roll the dice on some insane scheme and hope a miracle happens. Miracles don't never happen though in these situations.
catastrophe. And my favorite example here is the Japanese decision-making process that led to Pearl Harbor. The United States was squeezing Japan economically between the summer of 1940 and Pearl Harbor, which was December 7th, 1941. And we really began to squeeze starting July 25th, 1941. This is shortly after the Wehrmacht invaded the Soviet Union, and we were really putting pressure on Japan after that. And the Japanese were desperate because they were heavily dependent on the United States. They were remarkably dependent on the United States for oil, scrap iron, and scrap steel. And we had basically made it impossible for them to import those things from the United States. We had frozen their assets, their economic assets, and they were just desperate.
This is a really interesting little bit of history that we're learning here. Interesting little tidbit.
And they understood full well that attacking the United States at Pearl Harbor was likely to end in catastrophe. It's very important to understand this. The Japanese understood that they were attacking Godzilla and that it was likely to end in disaster. But they did it anyway because they were desperate. And when the level of desperation reaches a certain point, states, countries, leaders sometimes do remarkably foolish things that end up with catastrophic consequences. And this, of course, is what happened with the Japanese. So the question you have to ask yourself is, what is President Trump going to do as his level of desperation increases? And by the way, you catch glimpses of how desperate he is.
Oh, he is desperate. He's putting on a show. I would be desperate in this situation too. I don't see any way out after you bomb Supreme Leader, and they close Strait of Hormuz. It's checkmate practically. Anything you do leads to checkmate.
On occasion, when you sort of watch his body language and you watch what he's saying about the war against Iran, he understands full well that he's in deep trouble. And I'm sure
if only he had understood this before launching the attack and maybe reconsidered.
Or his advisors are telling him that if we don't shut this one down, we could go off a cliff. His advisors, especially his economic advisors, are not fools. They understand what's going on here. And they're looking.
Probably the economic advisors only came in and started voicing all this after it was too late to do anything about it.
Looking for an exit ramp, and they can't find one. And they understand full well that the Iranians are playing hardball with them. And I'm sure they understand full well that the Iranians have powerful cards to play. And
yeah, they might understand that behind the scenes, but listen to anything they say publicly. It's like, we've won this. They're entirely destroyed. They have no military capacity. Yeah, they're just such a disconnect between what they say publicly and what I'm sure they know privately.
And what's happening, I'm sure, behind closed doors, I'm sure that behind closed doors, the level of desperation is increasing every day. And
time is on Iran's side. Every single day, situation gets worse.
And they're searching, they're looking for a solution here. But as you and I were saying before, where is the solution? Where's the exit strategy? A number of my friends who I talk to about this say what President Trump should do is declare victory and get out.
Yes, that's the thing. That's not an option. He could do that with the Houthis. He could do that in any other Venezuela, anywhere else, against any other country. But Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz. They control 20% of the world's oil, 25% of the world's gas, 35% of the world's fertilizer. You can't, when they close Strait of Hormuz, you're stuck. You can't get out.
He can't do that. Who's going to believe that?
It's not a question of believe. As long as Strait of Hormuz is closed, he's in it. It's not over until that strait is open.
That he achieved a victory. Furthermore, the other side gets a vote in this one, and the other side's not going to quit. Right? They're going to continue to put pressure on the United States, and they're going to continue to put pressure on Israel, even if we say we won. They want us completely out of the Middle East. This is truly remarkable.
And they have enough leverage that there's a very good chance they achieve it.
One of their demands is they just want us to go home. Is President Trump going to declare victory and go home? I don't think so.
I don't think he can.
He may declare victory, but he's going to stay there militarily, maybe not employ military force against Iran, but we'll be there. And the Iranians will continue to attack us. So declaring victory and getting out, so to speak, where does that leave you? Nowhere. So he's got to figure out a way to shut this one down. And that means reaching some sort of modus vivendi with Iran. How does that happen? You know, again, this goes back
There, I see no feasible way of that happening anytime soon.
to our earlier discussion of that 15-point plan that Trump put forward, and then the various demands that the Iranians are putting forward. You know, how do you find some bargaining space there? And again,
There is
I
none.
don't see how you do it.
It's the same situation with Ukraine. The positions are too different. That's why the war has gone on for so long.
You know, the Iranians have no incentive.
Yeah, Iran has a ton of leverage. And here's something that I mentioned before, why Trump tacoed out on Monday.
Imaginable dimensions, and that it was this urging from the Gulf states, and I expect the president's own advisors, which eventually caused him to call his ultimatum off.
Yeah, basically there's disarray behind the scenes. Like J.D. Vance apparently had a yelling match with Netanyahu. There's Gulf states that are screaming behind the scenes to not bomb Iran's infrastructure because they know they'll be targeted in reprisals. It's a complete mess. And let's just have a look, we haven't done this in a while, of what it's actually looking like in Israel these days.
The skies above Tel Aviv erupted in flashes of light and thunder as a massive wave of attacks launched from Iran struck Israel, signaling one of the most severe escalations in recent years. Air raid sirens wailed across the city, driving millions of residents.
It's pretty, too bad that these go boom when they hit the ground, otherwise they're pretty fireworks.
Into shelters while explosions echoed through the darkness. Officials describe the assault as unprecedented, involving a mix of ballistic missiles, drones, and possibly cluster
This was just 20 hours ago.
munitions, raising concerns not only about immediate destruction, but also the long-term dangers left behind. By morning, residents of Tel Aviv emerged to scenes marked by devastation and uncertainty. Fires burned in multiple areas, sending thick plumes of smoke into the sky. Emergency responders
Looks like Gaza, doesn't it?
moved rapidly from one site to another, extinguishing flames and searching for victims among collapsed structures and debris-filled streets. The air was heavy with the smell of burning materials, and even after the initial barrage subsided, distant blasts continued to fuel.
And Iran is still husbanding all its most powerful missiles. In case there's, my bet is it's keeping them in case U.S. and Israel truly bomb their oil or their power or desalination plants. If that happens, then they'll bring out their most modern missiles. And oh my God, it'll escalate then.
Anxiety, authorities began evaluating the damage as quickly as possible. Several residential neighborhoods appear to have taken direct hits, with shattered windows and partially destroyed buildings. In some areas, vehicles were left engulfed in flames, while power outages deepened the confusion. Hospitals activated emergency protocols, treating the wounded while preparing for additional casualties as rescue teams continued their operations. Particular alarm has been raised over reports suggesting the use of cluster munitions. These weapons scatter smaller.
Slowly, Tel Aviv is beginning in sections to resemble Gaza.
We're 1 month in. We're running out of Tomahawks. We're running out of interceptors for PAC-3, for Arrow 2, Arrow 3, and we're running out of our own PAC-3s. THAAD missiles. Everything is running low. What are we going to do if we get into just a few months of this and we've exhausted all of our key assets and they haven't? Because you see that mountain. I mean, show it again.
Yeah, this is why we haven't been able to wipe out their missile capacity. This is why missiles rain down on Tel Aviv every night. These mounted bases, there's nothing you can do against this. Even your bunker ball, this here, I can't even read it, but I can tell you already, this here is the area that even the bunker buster missiles from the United States is so proud of can't get through this deep. You can't get through a mountain like 1,000 feet of stone. There is no weapon, even a nuclear weapon, that can get through that. I mean, a nuclear weapon would poison the area around and level everything, but it wouldn't reach down here.
This is incredible. There are scores of these things scattered throughout.
That's the reason when they test nuclear weapons, they test them deep underground, because it can't go through 1,000 feet of stone.
The country, not just one or two. And if they have foreseen what we can do, and they understood the power of our attacks, and that they had a system in place to defeat that, then you can see that this war will be a war of attrition, and that does not play well with us, which is crazy on the surface of it, because you think it's as though someone you may have heard recently monotonously keep saying that the United States is the most powerful military in the world by far. Nobody else is even close.
That is technically true, but by far, I would not anymore. Like Russia and China are getting close, but America is still the greatest military power. But that doesn't mean unlimited power. Iran is on the other side of the world, and geography matters. Like defenses, like entrenched enemies. That is still a problem for us. They build bases on the mountains. There's nothing we can do against that.
The history of the world, etc. And now you can see, if this month stretches on to 3 or 4 months, maybe not even that, in some categories within another month, one more month, we could be into critical to the point to where some aspects are out.
That's why I say it's only a matter of time before everyone is on the same page as me about this war being a disaster.
And then now we have to start digging in the old stuff that has an even less capability to intercept stuff. And if the Iranians and the Hezbollah and the Kataib Hezbollah and the Yemenis, if they retain their ability to fire, you can understand we are going to be in a serious, serious problem. And that, of course, leads to desperation, which is why I'm concerned that we could be on the...
Israel keeps escalating. To one extent, I think Trump has done the strategy of leaving Israel to do the escalation, to do the nasty stuff. I'm sure he's somewhat aboard with it, but yeah, I have to wonder if any of these escalations, maybe one of them he wasn't on board with. I don't know. It might come a time where Israel does something that Trump really didn't want them to do. That might easily happen.
Because nothing happened over this night, but we could be on the cusp of saying, you know what, we have to try something on the ground. And in an ill-conceived, unresourced...
He's going to have to, Trump, because the air campaign isn't working. The air campaign has no chance of producing regime change or opening the Strait of Hormuz, which is what Trump needs. And so his options is to twiddle his thumb while the global economy burns, or try something desperate. And desperate attempts usually don't end up well.
Desperation that you didn't plan before. You have not had all the months of preparation, the logistics planning, the stockpiling, getting all the troops trained, equipped, making sure you've got
exactly. That is my biggest point. Biggest mistake about this, well, not the biggest one, the biggest is launching it, but killing the Supreme Leader without having a strategy for the Strait of Hormuz. You had to have, like, a year before, start having planning for how are we going to deal with the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Have enough troops in the region to do something day one about the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Have a strategy, have something mapped out. Be prepared, not winging it. And if that was the case, there is a chance that we could have gotten the Straits of Hormuz open in 6 months. If we'd had like 200,000 troops ready to go day one, and we had a clear strategy, there's a good chance we could have secured enough of Iran's coastline here, because we basically need to secure this. Taking the whole country in 6 months, impossible. But taking just this much in 6 months, if the fighting begins day one, perhaps really hard, because we're in the era of drone warfare where everything is slower, but we would have at least had a decent shot of controlling enough. Maybe you could just control this at the beginning and still deal with, and then slowly expand it. But the thing is, it takes a year to get 200,000 troops on the ground, or to mobilize that amount of troops, if you start now.
Enough of them, getting shortages filled, etc. All the things we have historically done before we engaged in a large-scale operation, none of them have been done. And I fear that in desperation, because believe me, I ain't the only one doing this.
Yeah, like I said, none of them have been done. that's the problem. We bombed Supreme Leader. We only prepared for an airstrike. We had nothing prepared on the ground, or no planning to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. And that planning only began like a week after we bombed Supreme Leader, whereas it needed to start a year before that to have any chance of success. Because, like I said, 6 months, Hormuz being closed, Trump loses, and it'll take at least 6 months to get like a 100,000 troops in the area, which is what we actually need to secure the Strait of Hormuz. So there's no way we can even get enough troops to the region in time to open Strait of Hormuz before this costs Trump the midterms and his presidency, because he'll be impeached. The Democrats be dying to impeach him, and he's handed them a valid excuse, starting a war without authorization from Congress that wrecks a global economy. That is an impeachable offense, and if they take Congress, they will impeach him.
This missile math that I just described to you, obviously the Iranian side did beforehand, the Houthis did beforehand, and now then they're playing their cards in a pretty carefully crafted way.
Yeah, Trump and his advisors might have no idea what's going on, but this is a scenario Iran has war gamed for decades, and they prepared for decades. They know what's going on, and they probably have accounted for anything we could possibly try, because they've war gamed this thousands of times.
In a way that is really starting to be a problem for the United States, and we may take a bad decision out of desperation and go forward and try and do something that doesn't make any sense, that could make it enormously worse. If we go in on the ground, the chances of taking high casualties, because again,
is virtually guaranteed, because this is the era of drone warfare, and we know Iran already has FPV drones, and it has the fiber wire FPV drones that can't be jammed, and they've received large quantities of those. Anywhere we land, we'll be facing them, and frankly, our troops have not really trained to deal with that.
And like all these other things, the Iranian side has foreseen all this, and they have a plan to defeat it. They have a resource plan. They have foreseen all of these reactions that we've done, and they have had resource plans that up to this point have been very effective in countering us. Now, if you go in and you put infantrymen, especially light infantrymen or Marines on the ground, folks, they're going to suffer a huge number of casualties, and the chances of them succeeding even tactically is very remote, and strategically, or even...
That's another problem with Trump's Iran war, is that he started this without any popular support, which means our ability to take casualties is non-existent. We take 2,000 or 3,000 casualties, and that's it. I mean, popular opinion in the United States just turns completely against this war. You do not start a war with this low public opinion and put boots on the ground that end up dying in large numbers.
Even operationally is off. There's just not any. The chances, in my view, don't even exist. And if we try that, that's going to be a real problem. Now, all of this is having an impact on the Iranian side, because they see this missile math. They see this
missile math. They also know what I just said about Trump, the Democrats hating Trump, Democrats dying to impeach Trump. They know that midterms are coming up. They know if they hold the Strait of Hormuz closed for 6 months, Trump is fucked. They know all this. Why in the world would they back down? They're on a winning course, and we have no way to force the Strait of Hormuz open. All they have to do is win is hold the Strait of Hormuz closed 6 months, and we have no way to force it open. In other words, they've already won, basically. The only way Trump gets out of it is if Iran shows mercy to him. And for Iran to show mercy and open the Strait of Hormuz, he'd have to agree to practically all of their demands, which would be political suicide.
Negative in our direction, and now they see the joining of the Houthis, Hezbollah, Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq, and they're feeling a little bit more cocky and confident. Here's the Iranian spokesman today showing just that.
ترامپ و فرماندهان ارتش آمریکا باید به خوبی درک کرده باشند که منطقه به گورستان سربازان آمریکایی تبدیل خواهد.
Already, this guy is a lot better than the Houthis announcer. He's less robotic.
شد و راهی جز تسلیم در برابر اراده الهی مردم قهرمان و رزمندگان شجاع اسلام نخواهند داشت.
And listen, I mean, he's like, yeah, I mean, you can see that they're more confident now, because they have by themselves already withstood everything we've thrown at them for nearly a full month now.
And they're still sending missile barrages. They still have capacity to send missiles. They still have control of the Strait of Hormuz.
and they are still completely viable. They took it in the face. They had a huge bloody nose. You may even say like the equivalent of a broken arm. They lost their supreme leader. They've lost a number of other senior officials, military and civilian, political, but they weathered them all because, again, they had a plan which they articulated beforehand that they already had replacements. They even specified for the senior leader, supreme leader, all these other folks. Every one of them had been replaced. Ali Larijani, their national security advisor, he was taken out. He was replaced right away to validate that they had a plan. They were prepared for it. Psychologically, they understood it. And now that they're continuing to operate here. But here's the problem. I mean, there's a couple of things I keep talking to you about some of these ticking clocks for the United States. You now have the math clock. I just have the interceptors and the offensive missiles. All of that is now a problem. And then there's this one here that keeps on its own, and it's now ticking up. This is Brent, the price of oil here. This was as of the close of business yesterday. Was sitting at 10.
Eventually, I said that they'd hold the oil prices down for as long as they could, and we got in at least a month. We're getting there. We're getting to the point where I think another week or two where the oil might have to force its way up past 100 permanently for foreseeable future. They've done a good job in holding it down under 100 so far, but especially since if we get major escalations over this weekend, we might be living in a post-100 world come Monday.
The reason that Iran is able to strike our bases, our American servicemen, able to knock out our tech.
This is that new Saudi air base, that's to the west of the country that Saudi Arabia just gave U.S. military permission to use. And it was struck, and these are refueling aircrafts. They allow our jets to fly further by refueling them mid-flight, and we lost several of them.
Taxpayer-funded, very expensive jets and helicopters and bases is not because they're innovating faster than us. It's because they're adapting faster than us. It is a shame that I have to repeat myself. Not only myself, it's not just me. It's anybody who spent any time in Ukraine or has looked at the news about Ukraine in the last 4 years who will know that this is a problem.
This is the era of drone warfare.
Problem that should not be a problem. That training pipelines for drones, not only using them, but also the countering of them, counter UAS, needs to be taken seriously. Wow, how many times have you heard that? How many Shahed drones are flown at Ukraine every single day? They're in the hundreds, and Ukraine is able to intercept over 90% of them almost every night. But instead of leaning into that technology that they're using, we are leaning into our own understanding of warfare from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and then we also backstab the Ukrainians just like we did with the Kurds. And now we're asking the Kurds, hey, can you clean up the mess that we made in Iran? And them, after watching Rojava be taken 2 months ago.
Yeah, we abandoned the Kurds in Syria, and they got slaughtered by the new Al-Qaeda ISIS leader of Syria.
After watching the Halabja massacre, we've abandoned them so many times before. Of course they're not going to help us. They're going to fight for what they want, and when they think that it's time.
Whenever I see small tunnels, I'm like cringe because I'm a big person. I struggle to fit through this.
Time to actually go out of the tunnels and take back.
I don't mean fat. I mean big, tall. And
some their land, they're going to do it, but it's not going to be based on us because we can't be trusted. That's not really what I want to talk about today. What I want to mention is just the lessons learned. Every single time that I talk to those soldiers, that they agree, like they want Suez capabilities, they want counter UAS capabilities, they want these techniques.
These type of videos is what we're going to see on U.S. troops if they land in Iran. Of course, they'll do it for propaganda purposes. Every single FPV drone that strikes a U.S. soldier, the footage from that will be available to the world.
TTPs that we learned, they want to emplace them, but they are being held back by the bureaucracy behind them. Iran works in a very similar way that I was used to in the YBS and YPG, which is a decentralized command. But not only talking on the technical level of taking out leaders or if this person dies, yeah, we have an NCO Corps in the USA as well. But when I talk about decentralized, I'm talking they can adapt on the fly. If they find an effective counter for drones or if they find a way to use these drones, they're able to do it. Just a little credit card swipe, and $100,000 later, you have 200 drones, 200 FPVs, and they're able to hit all of our bases with them. And it's not only that, but it doesn't seem like our military is taking it serious at all. Did we not think that Saudi Arabia was going to continue to be hit? I've been saying this for the last couple videos. Shahed drones are easy to hide. They're easy to program and send out from garages in a city, the missile depots, the missile cities that are underneath the ground. We should know by now that they are still a threat, no matter if we declared victory or not. And I just find it as an absolute shame that we are not taking this serious, and this is being put on the backs of the American troops that aren't ready. my question to you guys is, what do you think the world's reaction will be when the first American is killed from an FPV slamming into his body? What do you think that reaction is going to be? What do you think your reaction?
Yeah, that is what's going to happen as soon as we put troops on the ground. It's guaranteed, just because there are thousands of these drones and you have thousands of troops, and one is guaranteed going to hit. So we're going to be seeing footage like we just saw. It's a complete mess. Well, I think that'll be it for this Iran segment. Be watching an Asmongold video and doing that in a whole separate one in a second. But like and subscribe. Come watch on Kiko or Twitch, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.